Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So how do you learn how to trust him again? So I'm actually recording this right now in the Seattle airport as my husband and I came back from an incredible 3 days in Boise, Idaho, at the Inner Circle Mastermind, part of one of my husband's business coaching programs. Like, amazing group of entrepreneurs. And, reflecting a lot on not just the opportunity for Ed and I to come to do this together, but like how much has really shifted within our marriage for us to really be able to be in this place. And part of it comes down to trust. And trust is a big piece that a lot of you in the Women Wanting More tribe, a lot of you that have coached with me, that follow the podcast, have talked to me about is how do I learn to trust him? He says he's going to do things, he doesn't actually follow through. He has promised things are going to happen in the past, and he does not do what he say that he's going to do. Like he's like talk a good game, but the actions don't line up with that, right? And there's even some of you to extremes where it's like, how can I trust him? He's cheated on me, or he's done these things, or he's gambled with our money, or he's working through some kind of addiction, drugs, alcohol, and keeps saying that, I'm going to stop doing these things, or I'm going to be better. I'm going to show you, and then just keeps betraying that trust. So regardless of what end of the spectrum that you come in with that, sister, like I can understand. I can understand why it's like, I don't want to trust. Like, why should I trust him? He has to earn that trust. Yes to all that. But let's go even deeper into this, right? Let's go even more foundational. And I can understand, even outside of marriage, right? The feeling of like, I don't really want to trust anybody. Like, believe me, I turned 49 in a couple weeks when I'm recording this podcast right now. And there's definitely a lot that's happened in my life that, not from a cynical standpoint, but like, you got to earn my trust, that I don't give out trust freely anymore. I just don't. Like, you have to earn that shit with me. You're going to have to show me. It's not something I just don't give out, because I've had so many times where I trust somebody and then it falls apart. So I know when it comes to marriage that's even more so, right? Where you really, really, really want to trust, and you've extended that, and or trust has been betrayed in different ways. So what do you do with that? Well, here's something that we talked about in the How to Heal Your Marriage Masterclass that I had 86 women go through this program, which is now a program that's created into a program which you all have access to. What I'll do is I'll drop the link for that in the show notes, but it's something brand new that I realize really needs to be addressed. And it's part of the message you're going to hear within the podcast with Women Wanting More, that I'm speaking like mostly about marriage and mindset. Because marriage is about you and him. And he's not here in this podcast. And he's not going to be at the webinar, and he's not going to be at the training, and he's not going to be being coached, but you will be. So how do you trust him again? That's really what we'll talk about today, right? How do you trust him again? And I'm going to share with you what I shared inside this masterclass for these women that got to be part of this exclusive training. And you can now have access to as well. And it begins with this, sister. It begins with learning to trust yourself. And we've all been through situations, so like I said, hey, over the past 49 years where it's been like relationships that didn't work out, friendship or business, family where I thought things were going to work a certain way and they didn't follow through, like just where you're like, fuck it, I'm not trusting anybody, screw it. Let me just kind of tap out of this, right? And then what happens is when we do that is we think we can selectively kind of numb that willingness to trust. But when we do that, we also end up not trusting ourselves anymore. We don't trust ourselves. We're like, wait a second, but I thought they were good. Or like, I hired this person and they seemed so amazing, and then this thing happened, like, oh my God, like I can't even trust my judgment anymore. And then you shut down, then you question yourself about everything. You learn to stop trusting. You stop listening to the voice inside. You know, what was so interesting about being in this inner circle last week is, like, these are like successful producers, creators, like badass entrepreneurs, people that are making anywhere from several $100,000 a year to most $1 million plus, 30 million, 40 million, 100 million a year. And what was so interesting to see is that so many of them have a lot of the same challenges, right? Because regardless of male, female, dollars in the bank account, you know, where we live, culture, we're all human beings, and it comes down to a lot of the same stuff. And a lot of them are so in their head, right? They're just brilliant, intelligent, and, you know, that's where they live a lot of their life, that they've shut off, and it's hard for them to listen to their heart. Because we place so much emphasis on how amazing that it is within our head. Like, you know, this is our world today. We're having about information and, like, you know, how can I Google stuff, and I'm going to research and do all this kind of shit, but we've turned off the best Google, if you will, which is inside of us, which is your heart, which is the voice inside. And it sounds so weird, right? To go, what do you mean the voice inside? But I've done it. It's turned me wrong. No, the voice has never been wrong. It never is wrong. It's just there's a good chance that these things happen to you. It's an absolute chance. It's an absolute reason that these experiences happen to you, because there was something for you to see. There was a lesson or gift in those experiences. As shitty as they were, as hard as they were, there was something for you to see. The voice is never wrong. But in order for you to trust him, you need to start trusting yourself again. And that means you need to start listening to the voice inside. So here's your more tip for today, and sister. I want you to open up your journal. Yes, we do lots of journaling. This is where we can really see things, right? We get our words out of our head, out of our heart, and onto paper, and we can see it with our own eyes. And I want you to write at the top of the page this: where I need to trust myself is, and start writing. And see what really comes up. You know, it might be something where you need to trust yourself when it comes to your body more. You need to trust yourself when it comes to how you parent. You need to trust yourself with decisions you're making with business and work, and you're doubting. And if you can't trust yourself, there's no way you can trust him. Whether this is brand new in your marriage, and you've got all the baggage of past relationships, past marriage, bringing that in, or there's been things that have happened within your marriage that you were reluctant to trust again. Trust is the piece that needs to be there. Right? If you don't have trust within marriage, and the reason I created this masterclass, I'm like, you know what? I could teach all of you. I could really lead you and show you by example with my marriage. You know, I've invested all this, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars in, like, therapists and coaches and counseling and seminars and books and podcasts and more coaches, and, like, let me help you get there faster, right? Let me streamline this for you. Like, I've done all the dirty work. Let me kind of, like, here's what you need to do, right? But I realized that so many of you, when I was really listening, is that there's so much needs to heal first. I can't put steps and things to do on top of shaky foundation. And what's the most important element that I believe to be true in marriage is trust. You need to trust each other. But you can't just say, well, I should, and, like, it needs to be real, right? So top of that journal page, and again, you need to be able to trust yourself first before you trust anyone. It doesn't happen that way otherwise. So at the top of your journal page, where I need to be trusting myself is, or the area in my life I need to trust myself more is, and start writing to see what insight really begins. This is a process, sister. Now, some of you might journal this and you're already, like, hearing this and you're like, oh my God, like, something's really resonating. It's landing, it's hitting you. You're like, I just know. I know what it is. I've been thinking about this. I've been feeling it. And or there's something in my words or in the stories that I'm saying to you and I'm sharing with you on this podcast that's, like, just brought everything to the first surface. Listen to that. Don't squash that. This is the voice speaking to you. There's something for you to hear. And whether or not you're having that experience, journaling is going to start to begin that process for you. So, sister, 3 things before we finish up. Number 1, actually, I mentioned about the How to Heal Your Marriage Masterclass. I will put that link in the show notes. And if you can't find this, if you can't find show notes, because I don't have the exact URL for that then yet, because it's actually just being built right now, because the first 6 women are into that. And depending on when you listen to this podcast, this is going to be out forever and ever and ever. If you cannot find it in the show notes, the link, then I want you to email me, Dr. Karen at drkarenosborn.com, and I will get that for you. So that is number 1. Number 2, you need to make sure you're part of the newsletter, because actually I just sent it out in the newsletter, because I released the program to the women that were part of the initial masterclass, which was free. And then we put it all together in a package for those who missed some of the classes, and some of them opt into that. And then it's gone to my private Facebook groups who've got more, and then it's going out to my list. So you'll miss these things. Do you hear this? You're going to miss this if you're not getting the newsletter from the podcast. So I want you to head over to drkarenosborn.com/action guide, drkarenosborn.com/action guide. And I'm going to send you a bunch of gifts as well too. The More For guide and training how to start your day in power, and 2 very powerful trainings on how to remember who you are. So that's at drkarenosborn.com/action guide. And the number 3, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review. It is because of reviews of so many of you that I so appreciate you've taken the time out of your busy days to actually do that other women have read the reviews and have been like, oh my God, maybe I should listen to this podcast. There's so many to listen to these days. Why should they listen to this one? And we're also going to drown out some of the hater comments, some of the hater reviews on there with lots of love. Love is more powerful than hate. So I would greatly appreciate if you, number 1, go to iTunes, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss every single episode Monday to Friday, and to leave a 5-star review and let me know what you think of the podcast. So I will talk to the next episode, sister. A life of more is just one step away from you doing the fucking work every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosborn.com/newsletter.